The Chicago Bulls are struggling right now. We all know this. They are 3-10 since the All-Star break. They have been losing games not only to the best teams in the league, but are even losing to bad teams, more recently losing to the Kings and the Pelicans. The Bulls are 0-16 against the top 3 teams in each conference, and the Bulls this season are 16-21 on the road. A team that started out the season top 5 in offense and defense has quickly dwindled to being in the bottom third of the league for both, and what was once thought of as an injury problem for the Bulls for why they were slumping, well, that narrative has started to fall by the wayside, given most of the players have returned to action with the exception of Lonzo Ball. So what happened? Well, in today's video, I want to talk about why the Bulls head coach Billy Donovan needs to be held more accountable for the Bulls' recent performance, and also discuss whether Donovan is the best long-term fit for this Bulls team. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now, I want to start by saying this isn't a Fire Billy Donovan video because I feel like most Bulls fans have jumped on that bandwagon when they run out of people to point the blame at, and they look at Billy Donovan and say, he's got to go now. Like I've said multiple times on this channel, I actually did not like the Billy Donovan hire, and I was pretty surprised when they did hire him because he wasn't on the suspected list of candidates when the Bulls were looking for a new coach after firing Jim Boylen. But he's not a bad coach. I wouldn't say he's a great coach, but he's not a bad coach. He's your middle of the line average coach, maybe slightly above average, at least in the NBA anyway. We all know that he was a great coach in college. But here's my issue with Billy Donovan. I don't just want an average coach or a slightly above average coach. Like if this team is building to go all in and you need one of the best coaches in the business to get you there, which sure is maybe easier said than done, but I firmly believe, and I actually made a video on this nearly a year ago in the Bulls last season, that Billy Donovan is not a championship level coach. A good development coach. He's great at building relationships with his players, which is very important, by the way. You have to gain the respect and trust of your players. But when it comes to executing on the court night in and night out and not getting outcoached by the other team, I don't think Billy Donovan is the guy for that. Now, I don't have a problem with a coach who is going to be that stepping stone to get you to the next level from being a bottom feeder to a middle tier playoff team, which to be fair, Billy Donovan has done. Like as much as we harp on him, he is leaps and bounds better than Jim Boylen, has gained the respect of his players, and has made this a better Bulls team than we have seen in years. Yes, some of that is on the front office for building a better team, but I think we can all agree Billy Donovan has gotten more out of this team than someone like Jim Boylen would have been able to do if he had this roster. So all of that is great. But if the Bulls want to be serious about contending for an actual championship, I don't think Billy Donovan is the guy for that. It doesn't mean that I think they should fire Billy Donovan this offseason, but long term, I just don't think he's the best fit if the Bulls want to be serious about winning a title, and I'll explain why. Now, when Billy Donovan came to the NBA in 2015, he was hired to be the coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder after the Thunder had fired Scott Brooks, after Brooks failed to get the Thunder over the hump to win a title despite having Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden before Harden was traded to the Rockets anyway, and they brought in a first-time head coach from college. Now, generally speaking, not all the time, but most of the time, great college coaches do not translate into being great NBA coaches. Take a look at coach like Fred Hoiberg, who was a solid coach in college and absolutely bombed in the NBA. He was actually hired the same year that Billy Donovan was. All of that being said, though, in Billy Donovan's first season, coaching the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Thunder had a great season and even went all the way to the Western Conference Finals in 2016 and were up 3-1 over the 73-9 Warriors and looked to be on their way to the finals and possibly even win a championship, all in his first season as head coach. Well, we all know what happened. The Thunder blew a 3-1 lead to the Warriors. Billy Donovan was simply outcoached by Steve Kerr despite having the best player in that series in Kevin Durant. Yes, I think Kevin Durant was a better player in that series than Steph Curry was, and they still could not advance to the finals, even having a big 3-1 lead. Now, of course, the following season, Kevin Durant pulled one of the softest moves in NBA history and bounced to the team that beat them in the Western Conference Finals, and the Thunder were now being led by Westbrook, and who would go on to win an MVP, averaging a triple-double 2 years in a row, and the Thunder kind of stayed a middle-tier team, making the playoffs every year he was there, but never making it out of the first round, despite even getting a guy like Paul George. Now, I think the most impressive season from Billy Donovan was his final year in Oklahoma City when the Thunder traded Westbrook for Chris Paul. And most people thought that the Thunder were going to tank and be one of the worst teams in the league, but the Thunder surprised everyone by being a strong team led by CP3, and went to the playoffs in the bubble and even took the Raptors to 7 games, or sorry, not the Raptors, the Rockets to 7 games in that first round before being eliminated. Of course, Billy Donovan and the Thunder decided to part ways, as Billy Donovan didn't want to be a part of a rebuilding team, as it was clear that they were going to be trading Chris Paul and start the rebuilding process. And when Donovan became an available coach on the open market, the new Bulls front office jumped on him and made the move to hire him. But anyway, that was kind of long-winded. This is why I don't think Billy Donovan is a championship-level coach. Donovan, like I said, as great as he is as developing players and earning the respect and trust of his players, and despite having coached big-time superstars in his career in the NBA, has always had a problem in being out-coached in big moments. His in-game adjustments, responding to the opposing team's switches and play styles, has never been good. And it's one of the reasons why the best coaches in the league always outwork him, because it is starting to become known that if you continue to make unexpected in-game adjustments to your lineup or play styles, to say switching to zone defense as an example, that Billy Donovan isn't best at responding to that and countering it. Teams are starting to figure that out when it comes to Billy Donovan, and the biggest reason why the Bulls have started struggling now compared to the start of the season, and yes, injuries are a factor, but it's more so that teams have simply figured out how the Bulls operate, and Billy Donovan doesn't know how to make those adjustments and keep the opposing team guessing about what the Bulls are going to do. For an opposing team, it's double DeMar, double Zach, run the pick and roll on offense. And you're more than likely to beat the Bulls because Billy Donovan is going to keep running the same thing. That's what makes great coaches. In-game adjustments, changes to rotations depending on what teams you're going up against and who is on the court from the other team at any given time. Always keeping the other team guessing. When your lineup, rotations, and play calls are also predictable after a while, you become an easy target to beat in the NBA, regardless of the talent level on your team. And that's been the case for Billy Donovan throughout his NBA career. When the Thunder were up 3-1 over the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, Steve Kerr studied what they were doing. Kerr made the necessary adjustments to go after Kevin Durant and forced Westbrook to go left on most possessions, which resulted in a lot of turnovers that caused the Thunder to struggle. And once Kerr exposed that weakness of the Thunder, he kept going after that, and Billy Donovan didn't make the adjustments necessary to try and get other guys involved when the Warriors came back and won the series in 7 games. They were 1 win away from the NBA Finals, and Billy Donovan couldn't make the necessary adjustments despite having Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook to respond to Steve Kerr's switches on defense. And now you're seeing the same thing with the Bulls. Slowly but surely, other teams have started to figure this team out. And as we wind down the season, the Bulls are in a free fall from being one of the top teams in the East. Now, to be fair, some of this is on the players. We can't say all of this is on coaching. And yes, injuries don't help. Like DeMar, if he had played last night, the Bulls probably would have beat the Pelicans. If Lonzo wasn't injured this whole time, the Bulls likely would have more wins than they currently do. And there is something to be said about the simple things like the Bulls hitting their shots. Like even when the Bulls are making the right plays, but they're bricking shots on most possessions, that's not really something the coach can control. That's on the players. And I know effort and energy is somewhat on the coach to get his guys to play hard, but that's also on the players. The players have to want it more than the other team. And they should be coming out and playing every game like it's their last, leaving it all on the floor and hustling on every play. Yes, it's on the coaches to motivate their players, to push their players when they're not playing with max effort, but the players need to come out and show that they want it, that they want to win and compete at the highest level. So in short, is Billy Donovan the right coach for this Bulls team? Especially now that the front office has fast-tracked the win now window with all the moves they made this past offseason. I have a really hard time saying that he is. He's a good development coach. It's what made him so great in college, working with young players and making them better players. But for a team that is looking to win a title, a team that is not rebuilding or developing young players, I don't think Billy Donovan is the best fit because I don't think he is a championship level coach. Of course, I would love to be proven wrong, and if Billy Donovan brings the title to Chicago in the coming years, I will absolutely come on here and eat my words, but I just don't see it happening. I want to know what you guys think, though. Do you think he and the coaching staff need to be held accountable for the Bulls' recent slump? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget the Bulls have a big game tomorrow against the Cavs, who are neck and neck with them in the standings. I'll have a live chat for that game on the channel as well as on the Discord. Until then, guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.